Ladies and gentlemen, can you believe it? It's already time for season 6 of Chewing the Gristle with yours truly, Greg Cox. So many delightful conversations to look forward to. We'll talk about music, yeah, sure. But you know what else we're going to talk about? Anything that comes to mind. So stay tuned. We got some good ones for you. Chewing the Gristle, season 6. Ladies and gentlemen, this week on Chewing the Gristle, we have the mighty return of Joe Bonamassa. I've known Joe for many, many years, and we've had a chance to get together lately, do a little jamming. Thought it would be fun to get him back on the podcast and chew the gristle a little bit about what he's been doing and what's been happening. So, without any further ado, let's get it. Joe Bonamassa this week on Chewing the Gristle. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, once again, we gather around the gristle fire for a little Chewing the Gristle sesh. Today, we have the mighty Joe Bonamassa on a return visit. The legendary axeman, bluesman, vocalist, world traveler, guitar collector, you know, Joe. What the hell's going on there, Big Daddy? Are you out in California, eh?
I am out in California, and I'm leaving tomorrow for, well, I don't know when this is going to air, but by the time it airs, I will be embarking on a 12-week, 3-month extravaganza in Euro Disney. Going to be there all summer.
Oh, my Lord. Now, that's kind of a long run. I mean, don't you like to parse it out a little bit more than that? Is this kind of an unusually long run?
It's going to be unusually long. It's four tours. It's a solo tour. Then we have the mighty Black Country Communion reuniting after 15 years for our first tour, literally in almost 14 years.
That's crazy.
And then I have a tribute to the great Rory Gallagher.
Yes.
The second G is silent, by the way.
I did not know that. I now know that.
Now, if you're talking about Oasis, it's Gallagher.
I got it.
It's Gallagher. The second G is silent. And you know who corrected me on that? Rory's brother.
Wild.
Yeah. So, and his nephew. No, the second G is silent. And we have a tribute to him, 3 nights at the Marquee Club in Cork, and a couple of days off. And then I do some touring with my own band again. We're doing some festivals over there. And then I come home like July 21st. So, you know, from literally April through July, I'll be over in Europe, you know.
Well, that will be,
you know.
That'll be festive.
Yes.
Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's a lot of adventures, and we're doing a one-off orchestra show at the North Sea Jazz Festival in July. So we have to revisit our Hollywood Bowl arrangements.
Oh, nice.
You know, I realized at the Hollywood Bowl that there's no improv. The orchestras don't like to improv.
No, you got to keep things.
You can't just twirl your hand around and go, I'll just take another chorus.
Right.
Not happening.
Yeah, they need things to be set or else there's problems.
There's real problems. And you know what I realized too is the conductor and the orchestra, as great a musicians as they are, they read and play what's on that chart.
Right.
And they'll run you off the cliff if you have directed them to run you off the cliff.
Right.
You know? So they're playing it and they're going, hey, it's on the sheet. That's how they're not like us where we just make it up as we go along.
Right. We're able to, with a wink and a nod, diverge.
Yeah. It's like, you know, trying to, steer a cruise ship, you know, in the Grand Prix of Monte Carlo. You know?
Yes.
Monaco.
Yes, indeed. Now, will you be taking your current rig from the US of A over there for these activities, including the majestic Lowell George Dumble?
No, the Lowell George amp will be staying stateside. The like anything in this world, why have one when you can have 2 at twice the price? So,
well, of course,
I have a second amp shanty that goes over once a year for all our European adventures, and there's a second set of guitars, and I started doing that because the cost of shipping gear since the pandemic has almost tripled. So we decided to build out second set of production boxes, work boxes, all this other stuff, wardrobe cases that we leave over there because, if you ship a Hammond B3 from the US to Europe and back, you've purchased said Hammond B3.
Right.
So we just decided to buy a second one and leave it over there. So it's more efficient, but I send the second rig over, and it's just as loud, so nobody has to worry about that. It's just as obnoxious and loud. and so a second rig goes over there, and it comes back. I think in September, and so it'll do the whole summer, because I don't like to leave guitars over there and stuff just sitting in the cold and
right, some storage layer.
Yeah, so I like to get all the kids back at the end of the year, parcel them out, and then we start again.
Excellent. So is it pretty consistent with what you're using in the States? I mean, or do you like, hey, I'm going to bring this stuff and I'll lean towards a little different material because I'm bringing over this different rig?
Yeah, I had to, guitar wise, I actually brought, I try to bring two of everything, a primary guitar and then a backup in case, so there's two SGs, two Les Pauls, two 335s. Because of the Black Country Communion reunion, I decided that I was going to bring a Les Paul Jr.
Oh, nice.
I was going to I'm going to rock out a little bit. And also the Junior will clean up better at some of these kind of hard rock festivals we're playing with Black Country Communion, in case they start throwing mud at me and anything that they decide, to throw on the stage, because, if they don't like the way I'm playing, they throw things. So
interesting.
So the Junior is going to take the brunt of that. But there's always two Tellers, two Strats, and I sent a whole nother group of Strats over for the Rory Gallagher thing, including my green Sunburst one.
That's cool.
Of course. I go, this guitar has Ireland written all over it.
Yes, perfect.
It's like the Irish Spring commercial. It's just.
What's interesting about the Rory situation is that, a lot of what I got into was influenced by my brother's record collection. And then I kind of connected the dots from there. And Rory was never in that thing. And then I would hear stuff here and there as I was growing up and then doing my own thing and so on and so forth. And I was like, that's cool. But, I'm already into this guy and this guy and this guy. And anyways, to make a long story, I mean, it wasn't only until like maybe 20 years ago, I was playing in Germany somewhere, and these two Irish guys flew over to see us because we didn't have anything booked in Ireland. So they came over, said, we're big fans. We wanted to come and see you. And we wanted to give you, because they had heard somewhere along the line that I was never really into Rory, just because I just never was, And they gave me a copy of that, the Live 74 tour thing. Right. And then I got it. And I love the songs. Of course, I love the way that he plays. But I just love the tunes. I love the vibe. He kind of, I don't know how you feel about it, but he kind of reminds, it's like the Irish Roy Buchanan in a way, his approach on the instrument. You know what I mean? Yeah,
the pinch harmonics that he kind of leaned on. And, doing the deep dive, Donald and Daniel invited me to do this. And they had a few guitar players in mind, and they wanted to pay tribute to Rory. This year would be the 30th anniversary of his passing in 1995. And they wanted to do a tribute, and they went down a list. They asked a couple of people that are much higher pay grade, who respectfully declined. And then I get a call, and they're like, hey, do you want to do this thing in Cork? And I go, yeah, no problem. Right. Yeah, wicked. And then I hang up the phone and I go, yeah, that's going to be a real big challenge, because it's like he was intense. He had so many, he had so much energy.
Right.
And those songs, the way he delivered them. And I finally said, when we did the press rollout, and I already flew over to Cork and we did that, and we played like 3 songs. And I finally said, I'm there's Rory Gallagher tribute guys that do that, kind of like, Queen has a tribute band, and the Eagles, and they dress the part and they anorak the shit. You know, they go, well, you know, this is the version from the Cork Opera House, 1973, and like I'm not going to do any of that because I can't. You know, I'm not Rory. You know, but I can
do your own thing with it.
Do my own thing, and you know, I can only do what I do in the best possible, with the best possible intentions and in the spirit. You know, it's like saying, you know, do a Jimi Hendrix tribute show. It's like nobody's Hendrix,
right?
You know, it's like, and why, if you're going to do sound-alike stuff, we already have the original version.
Exactly.
You know? And so that's going to be my summer, and I'm really looking forward to it. You know, we've been to Europe so many times, you know, it's like, it never gets old. It's always an adventure.
It is always fun over there.
The churches, although I've stopped visiting some of the same churches and steeples of yesteryear, you know what I mean? I've gone up the spiral staircase. I've got the vertigo.
Right.
I've seen it all, you know. And I'm like, okay.
But you like to go for strolls too. I love going for strolls over there. Just going out and walking through the countryside, because they actually have like walking paths everywhere.
Yes. Well, the thing with Europe, they never got away from the city center concept.
Right.
Like, you know, America, travel around America, and there is always those old downtowns that are just completely abandoned, or they're like a vape shop and, you know, whatever. But in Europe, the whole community still revolves around the city center. So you can walk for hours, and there's shops and you know, they never got the strip mall concept that we've so embraced here in America. Come on. True. It's like, I'm like, how many times in America you just travel through these towns and it's like there's a strip mall and like, yep, there's a Texas Roadhouse, there's a Guitar Center, there's Joanne Fabrics,
exactly.
Chick-fil-A.
Those are on the way out. FYI.
Oh, I heard. Where am I going to get the Velcro for the pedal boards?
There you go. It's crazy.
But you know what I mean? It's like each town in America has kind of lost its identity because we've strip malled it.
Right. You know? I agree.
And then now all the strip malls and malls are closing. So now what's left? It's like, it's just going to be an Amazon depot. And,
good Lord.
And a Chick-fil-A.
Well, you know, one of the things about Europe too that's fun, which some people just don't understand, is the German breakfast. It's just the delicious cold cuts with those warm rolls, and I get there and I just can't wait to wake up in the morning and have breakfast, which is really lunch.
it is lunch, and for me it's so counterintuitive to how I roll on when I'm home, I wake up kind of early. I wake up like 7:30 in the morning, and I'm like, you know, but when I'm on tour, especially at night after the gig, it's like if before noon is off the table. You know, sleep in, you know, because I'm trying to hit that apex curve at 8 o'clock, and you know, so. But the German breakfast, it gets me up. Yeah. Like, you know, it's like, what time you serving breakfast? And my band loves it too, because it's part of the hotel.
Yes,
it's baked in. You know,
exactly.
And there's been many a times in America where some members are saying, like, of my group, going, I had 2 eggs, an English muffin, an orange juice, and a coffee. And it was $75. I'm like,
right.
It ain't Germany.
That's right.
You know, listen.
And what's crazy about Germany is that even if it's a cheap hotel, the breakfast is happening. You know, it's not happening. It's not like when you stay at a cheap hotel in the States where it's just like you get this continental offering. It's like for real. It's like powdered eggs, you know, and it's like exactly, and mystery
powdered eggs, you're lucky. And country time lemonade and orange juice mix,
right?
And then the boxes you'll see in the back of the hotels there's boxes, and they're stenciled, you know, U.S. Department of Corrections.
This
loaded in.
Let me ask you something just about practicing and stuff. I mean, what kind of stuff do you like to work on? I mean, I play along with records all the time still. You know, I'll just be like, you know, I haven't played along with so-and-so, and I'll do that. And I might learn some, but I'm just curious, what is your take? I mean, obviously you're working and you're working on new songs and working on repertoire, working for this Rory thing and so on and so forth. But for the fun of it, what are you working on?
You know, I like to like when I come home off the tour, the last thing I want to listen to is blues rock. Like
Okay.
it's just plumbers don't want to fix pipes on their day off. You know, it's like that's what I do. I do blues rock. So I like playing along to like Bruce Hornsby records.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
stuff with like more adult changes than I'm used to,
Right.
and trying to figure out okay, how do I play over these changes, and just little things. And I have I live in a house of guitars. I
Right.
mean, I just pray there's no earthquake because I'll be killed by
You'd be
reverb.
bludgeoned.
Yeah, but so one of the things that I like to do is for me is I just kind of zone out. I have a little speaker in the corner of this room next to the train wreck here, and I basically just Bluetooth something, and
Right.
I play at very low volume, which is once again, you've been on our stage many times. Counterintuitive to what everybody thinks. I play at super low volume because this guy does not like crowds or loud music. It's just such an oxymoron. But I basically I play at low volumes, and sometimes I stumble upon new stuff, and sometimes if I'm just retreading the same old path, I put it down and I don't play for a day or two, and then I'll pick it up. And I play a lot of acoustic guitars
Okay.
at home, which I don't play. And I find that just kind of keeps the road chops up a little bit, a little more resistance, you know,
Absolutely.
and but intrinsically I'm an electric guitar player. So, it's as long as the tone's right and I, feeling it, and it's just like break out a Strat or a Tele or Les Paul and just see what I can get out of it.
Right. So with your arsenal of so many glorious instruments, I mean, obviously you have your favorites, but have you noticed like freakish examples of like, especially like the iconic instruments, like of your old burst Les Pauls? It's like, yeah, they're all pretty good. This one's not, but this one has got this supernatural thing. Is it like that, or are they all kind of in the wheelhouse?
No, I mean, when you're talking about like a Sunburst Les Paul, they all vary. And some of the ones that I have, a lot of my collection, not a lot of people see because they're not, especially on stage. It's very mint. It's very well preserved, all original. That's what I collect. What I play is the stuff that sounds great.
Right.
And the stuff that I put frets on, and when you talk about it, like I always say, the best Sunburst Les Paul you'll ever play is the 335.
Interesting.
But like a 1960, they tend with the shorter neck tenons, and especially when you get into the later 60s, they tend to have more, in my opinion, of the classic burst sound, like the English burst sound, like Clapton had a 60,
right.
He bought it from Andy Summers, and they tend to be biters, and sometimes when you get the bigger necks on 58s and 59s, I mean, again, it's a case per case basis.
Sure.
They don't have the chime,
right.
But I will show you one.
Yes, please.
This is the one they're going to bury me with. This is my favorite. This is Principal Skinner.
Okay.
And how it got its name, well, I'm a big Simpsons fan, but this was known as the Skinner Burst,
right,
among collectors in the early 2000s. And it was consigned to the Skinner auction house in Boston. And that's where it was sold. And my friend bought it, and he sold it to me in 2011, sorry. And like this was known as the Skinner Burst. And I said, well, I'll just slap a Principal Skinner sticker on the case, and we now have a name.
Right.
And I've owned it for almost 15 years. And this one does everything as a Les Paul should. Right. It doesn't. It matters not that it's a 1959. It just doesn't. It doesn't matter. It could be an 89. This, as a Les Paul, is got that perfect. The front pickup has got that like really kind of hollow, almost stratty thing.
Yep.
Like Bruce Conti, that Tower of Power.
Yep. Yeah.
Vibe. The middle position is great for rhythms, and it does that. It doesn't do the Jimmy Page quack, but it does that really cool, like just middle position Gibson.
Sure.
And the treble pickup is the best balance of biting and moaning that I know. You know, some of them moan and it's just like, man, it's just not enough poke on the note,
Right.
and some are way too bright. This one has the best balance, and this one, you know, it's been played. It was a big belt buckle on, you know, and that's my favorite. And when this was sold in 2006, it set the record at the time, which has now been shattered and many times. It set the record for the highest price ever paid for a non-celebrity guitar.
Oh, no shit.
And it was on the cover of a magazine. And the guy who consigned it with Skinner Auction House, his father gave him, his father was the original owner and gave him the guitar. He played it. And when he retired as a chief of police in Benton, Minnesota, he asked his father permission to sell the guitar because he knew it was valuable. And he wanted to buy a log cabin on the lake as part of his retirement. This guitar turned into a log cabin on the lake. And and it's just a great Les Paul. And one of the most important things is because, you know, in certain circles, I'm known as like the king cork sniffer, but it doesn't matter what year it is. It just any guitar that speaks to you, it could be made 2 days ago or 60, 65 years ago. Doesn't matter. 66 years ago. Doesn't matter. If it speaks to you and it makes you reach for it, makes the right hand reach for it, that's your guitar.
Totally.
You know? And I have to, you know, for years when I first started playing the Sunburst stuff live, it would play me because I would look down and I'm like, making sure I'm not like, you know, now I just grab them and play.
Right.
They're not out here to be preserved, you know, and, you know, this one here has a little ding on it's got a lot of dings, but it has a little ding right here on the top. Probably can't see it. And it's the John Hyatt scratch, 2011 when I got it. And John Hyatt was nice enough to come for 2 nights at the Beacon Theater in New York City, and he sang a couple of songs for our DVD. And at the end of the second night, I just go, ladies and gentlemen, John Hyatt, and he's got a J200 with strings poking out,
right?
And he goes to give me a hug, and the headstock hits the top of this thing and puts a little nick in it. It's the John Hyatt scratch.
Perfect.
And at the time, people were saying, you know, some of the older kind of Sunburst guys and vintage guys were saying, hey, listen, man, we see you're playing like a real 59 on the road. You know, every scratch you put in, it takes $1,000 off the value. And I said, well, if I put 265 scratches on it, is it worth nothing?
Right. Exactly.
I'm like, what kind of fucking logic is that?
Right. It's
ridiculous. You know, and so, yeah, there's stuff like this. And then there's stuff that's, you know, looks like it was made yesterday, like this. This room's full of surprises. Like
there you go.
This is a really perfectly preserved TV Junior from 57. You know,
they got a big neck on it.
It's got the big on it, and you know, some days it stays in tune, and some days it's like don't even bother looking at it. You know, so there's like this is what I collect. That's what I play. You know, but I try to surround myself. You know, I mean, the people we've had film crews document my mental illness, you know, and hoarding for many years now. So it should be no shock to anyone that my house, when you come into my house here in LA, even though after the fires I evacuated about 100 things out of here, but it kind of looks to the hoarder in me, it looks like I got robbed, but it's still way too much, you know. And you know, the thing is, I'll show you. It's the room keeps going.
Oh yeah.
And then, you know, there's that, and then all these and all the pedals, you know. So I'm nothing if not consistent, and I don't apologize for it. There's been many years where people are like going, blah 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 blah. Why don't you save some for the rest of us? I'm like, I don't buy it. There's thousands of guitars for sale today.
Right. Sure.
Today, I mean,
well,
even they're not collectors have 20. Right.
You're still a young lad, but do you think about an exit strategy at some point of, well, when I get to this point, I'm going to maybe do this with all of this stuff?
Well, I have to, I mean, when you become a guitar collector of this kind of severity, and I just don't do this, kids. Don't do this to yourself. When you become a guitar collector of this whatever level, I feel I have a responsibility to my friends and the guitar collecting community to say, like, if I walked in here in this house alone and said, you know what, I'm sick of looking at Tweed Fender amps. I can't, it's like, I'm allergic to them. Right. And I said, let's sell them all. Just here within 50 feet of where I'm sitting, there's 125, all in mint condition. So yeah, I'll sell the first 40 quick, and then and then the values will go down. So in certain tranches of this thing, I have the ability to adversely affect
the market.
Yeah. And I go, if I ever decided I was not interested in these anymore, I have 16. Like, you can't put 16 up for sale all at the same time. It's just, so the exit strategy will have to be very
measured
and deliberate, because of how vast it is. There's like 1,200 pieces in the collection between guitars and amps. And it's just, you just can't put it all out for sale,
Right.
If I get hit by a bus, my niece and nephew are going to do the big auction, and people are going to buy it all, and I don't care what they get for it, and they'll they'll live a full and happy life. And anybody who gets anything too cheap at that auction, I'm going to haunt from beyond the grave.
Now, is it true that you said that if you think I'm bad, you should see Rick Nielsen? Is he more of a hoarder than yourself? He's a kind of a buddy. I've not been to his place yet, but we've hung out and played together a bit, but I've not been to his house.
Rick is one of the reasons why I did this. I got his book, like we all did in the 90s.
Right.
And when I was doing, coming up, and I was opening up for Cheap Trick, and I'd see a Sunburst Les Paul and all this iconic old stuff in the rack. And I'm like going, he uses it. This is great. He's been a real inspiration for a lot of people going, what am I saving it for? Now he's got stuff that got stashed away, and he's proud of, and like me, doesn't want to, take it out and beat it up. But, I look at it as a collector. I look at it from the point of view is it's functioning art Americana. Right. Everything in this room was made in America, and that's every screw and pickup and tuning key, and it's functioning art. I don't look at it like stocks. I know some people that get into it hot and heavy, come in and they're like, we hear these are great investments. Like, you have to get your head around that. Like, one day this could be worth zero,
right?
But it does still make you happy,
right? Yeah, I got you.
And if you're not happy, then you have to find that cold, dark, empty spot in your soul. Address that with psychotherapy,
right?
This is years of pent up, like. This could have all been avoided if I just went to therapy, but I didn't, and this is what happened. And don't do this. Don't do this to yourself. Not good.
So I was going to ask you about, as we kind of, none of us are getting any younger, right? And we look back and kind of music we're into, and it's unusual that roots-oriented music, blues rock, you name it, has maintained a level of popularity. Well, I make this analogy. It's like, my parents were World War II people, and they did not, they thought our music was noise. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
it's like when I was growing up and I was playing stuff, I was like, "Hey, listen to that noise." I mean, they liked, my dad would go see big bands back in the day. And it was into Trini Lopez, I guess was his pop, thing that he was into. But by comparison, when you look the period of time from, okay, they were in their 20s and the 40s, and then, 20 years later, they're totally divorced from what the kids are into. But by the same token, how many people are kind of playing stuff that, look at the Zeppelin movie. How many people are going out and seeing the Zeppelin movie? Like, oh my God, these guys were great. All that stuff is still quasi-contemporaneous, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are is how long is that going to last? You know what I mean?
What's interesting to me is how we're still talking about Jimi Hendrix. The Bob Dylan movie was one of the most popular movies.
Yep.
And it was set in 1962.
Yep.
In Greenwich Village. And the music that happened between 1960 and 1975, let's just use it, that 50-year period, has stood the test of time. And the classics are the classics, but people are still hip and cool and love them some Led Zeppelin, and nobody's, very few people still look back with longing and going, man, I wish that jitterbug would come back.
Right.
Good stuff, and not to say that Louis Armstrong and all that stuff wasn't timeless classics, and what I think now, what gives me hope is that I see a cast and a group of young people, both male and female, playing at a level that I could have only wished I had the skills when I was 15 and 16. And I kind of went down the rabbit hole. I'm like, well, how are these kids getting so good so fast? And I said, the good thing about the internet is the information is right here.
Right.
It's all there. You want to learn how to play Riviera Paradise. You want to learn how to play this. You want to learn how to play that. It's all there.
Right.
And they never had to put nickels and dimes on needles and shove them back, 16 bars and go, what is that? And then, you're slowing the thing down. Now they have the technology to, like, you can slow something down in real time, in the same key.
In tune. Yeah.
In tune. And that's amazing. And, look at how popular the Grateful Dead's music is now. It's arguably as popular as it's ever been.
Right. True.
And I was never a Deadhead and didn't go down that rabbit hole.
Nor I.
But you're I'm sitting there going, wow, a whole new generation is discovering this music. So to your question, I don't think it's going to last forever, but I think to every time music gets too canned, manipulated, auto-tuned, and AI'd, there's going to be an equal and opposite reaction where there's still people that want to see no net live music, singing, and something organic and mechanical. It's like, why is vinyl back? Well, it's mechanical. It's a binary thing. People, a stick shift in a car. Most people don't know how to drive a 4-speed, but if you collect old cars, like an air-cooled Porsche with a factory 4-speed, that's a valuable car. Why? It's because it's mechanical, and you get maybe air conditioning, maybe heat, and a couple of buttons.
Right.
Now the cars are smarter than we are.
True.
You know what I mean? Driving for us, and that's you take it to an extreme on one side, take it to extreme on the other side, and that's why it's still kind of relevant. Yeah,
we were talking last time we were in the same room about just this whole idea of, so many, even some of the iconic artists that are left around touring from that kind of Grail period are playing along with ancillary tracks and to grids and stuff like that because it lends a level of quality to their performance that has kind of become what, I guess, I don't want to say the boomers, that they want to hear it exactly how it was on the record, which is interesting because the live versions is what we always look forward to when we were younger, to see how are they going to pull this shit off live. But now it's kind of twisted a little bit where they like, oh no, I want to hear it on the record like it was on the record. And if you veer They kind of feel like they're getting, they're not getting their money's worth.
Yeah, and the problem, is like the worst thing I ever did in a live performance. The worst habit I ever got into was in 2014. We were in between tours, and we had these 3 shows booked: one at Red Rocks, and then 2 warm-up shows. And we were recording a DVD called Muddy Wolf.
Yep.
My little tribute to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf. Put them all together. Half the show's Muddy, half the show's Howlin' Wolf, and
Perfect.
then the encore was the Ballad of John Henry and To the Wee Wee Hours. And we had 3 days of rehearse it. It was 17 new songs. I'm trying to cram lyrics into my brain and read, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna have to put some cheat sheets down. And then my then production manager goes, you don't have to do that. I got you. Next thing you know, at first rehearsal, there's a screen and these green letters. Song number 1, Tiger in Your Tank. And there's the lyrics.
Right.
And I go, okay, cool. We'll use it for these songs. We'll use it for these 3 shows, but whatever. Next thing you know, hey man, you still got that teleprompter? And it's the worst habit in the world, because I should know the lyrics to Slow Jam. I should know the lyrics. I've sang it 2,000 times. Yeah. But once you cross that, once you accept the help, sometimes it's impossible to go back. It's
like a map app.
It's
on
like
your phone.
Yeah. How did we ever make it to gigs without a sat nav in the car?
Exactly.
But it's like, yeah, we had MapQuest, or we had a Rand McNally.
Yeah.
And it was like, and you're with the highlighter.
Right. I remember printing out, all the MapQuest things and having my little odometer going, okay, and point now, and I'd click it though. Yeah. I'd look for my tour, turn. And I get your point. Yeah. But it's not, and I guess it's one of those things where if people are enjoying what they're going to see, I guess it doesn't really matter in terms of those who lean on other things other than just a teleprompter. You know what I mean? Like they're not actually singing and they're lip syncing and so on and so forth. I guess if people dig it, I'm fine with it. But to the other point is when they see people actually just playing and wing it, there's magic that happens when there's chaos at hand.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't want to sound like a grumpy old man, but I will, because, I, like everybody, doom scrolls during the day, on Instagram and all the social media. And like you've seen all these clips from Coachella and some of the modern pop stuff. It's like, they're not even singing. Like the lead vocal is going.
Right.
And the mic is like out here. It's like, they're not even trying. It's like, just for the children, humor me.
Right. Exactly.
Put the mic up to your face.
Right.
And I think if people are cool with that, then what do I have to say about it? But it's to the point where you're like, a live show is not really a live show. It's a more of like it's spectacle. You're you're seeing people dance and no real instruments were harmed. It's hard for me to go to or see a clip or see a show with a band that has no amps on stage. The drummer is in some sort of like, hyperbaric chamber.
Right, exactly.
And where they have to lower the air pressure so much that no sound will escape this pod. And then next thing you know, you hear the out front mix and those background vocals and all there's 6 guitar tracks going and there's one dude playing, and you're like, first of all, those vocals are more in tune than the Beatles at Shea Stadium.
Right.
And I'm like, how's this guy playing 6 tracks at once? And I'm like, I don't even know what's live and what's not live. And I would bet a lot of money that the participants on stage in the backing band don't know what's actually being broadcast in the front of house.
Right.
You know what I mean? Going, hey, I was playing, and they're like, your fader's gone. They put up the can track. I mean, it's like the front house guy has complete control over everything, and what they're hearing in their earbuds it could be diametrically opposed to reality.
Right.
And it's a way of doing it,
right.
But it's not the way I like to do it. And at least somewhat, I try to keep it try to just keep it more honest on our stage. It's like, man, if I make the mistake, that's what people love, is when is when the string breaks and you mess up and I'm in the wrong key, or I drop a verse, or I get off.
The human element.
Yeah. And the band goes right with me, and they're all smiling. I always turn around and they're all laughing. I go, I know, but we survived.
Yes. We interrupt this regularly scheduled gristle-infested conversation to give a special shout out to our friends at Fishman Transducers, makers of the Greg Koch signature Fluence Gristle Tone pickup set. Can you dig that? And our friends at Wildwood Guitars of Louisville, Colorado, bringing the heat in the shadow of the Rocky Mountains. So, I mean, you got this big tour coming up. I mean, things have been going really well for quite a while now. And, the venues that you're playing are the cool venues in all the different places. I mean, are you at this point satisfied with your ability to maintain what you're doing, keep on putting out new music and maintaining this level of current notoriety, which is massive? Or is there something you're like, yeah, but I haven't done X, Y, and Z, and I really want to do that?
Nah, you know what? In 2006, when it just started to start drawing a crowd over in Europe, and it was just starting to draw a crowd here, I just looked around and I said, I never thought I would get this far. Then in 2009, 2010, the PBS thing exploded, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I thought I worked hard getting up to that point. I was like, oh my God. I never had the Sir Edmund Hillary complex. I don't need to plant my flag on top of the Mount Everest. I'm happy with base camp. And because sometimes, the people that in their careers going, I really want a number one hit, or I really got to have that whatever, and that milestone. Sometimes you achieve that you hit the apex curve, and then the descent is way more radical.
Right.
I'd rather keep it at 15,000 feet.
Right. I'm with you. I understand.
And take the turbulence as it ebbs and flows, but still maintain altitude, as opposed to go, well, we just had the biggest year ever, and now I don't know why there's nobody here.
Right. Right.
And that happens. You see it a lot, and you see that happen in the country world. You see that happen in the pop world, where, people with enough Instagram followers to, declare themselves king or queen of any country,
right,
having a hard time selling tickets. You're like, well, what happened? The audience moves on, and it doesn't grow with you, because you've reached out to an audience that tends to move on,
right,
as opposed to sticking with an artist or having a personal connection.
Right. So I like to, my motto is, I don't need millions, I just need enough.
Yeah, I mean, I've achieved everything that I've played every venue I've always wanted to play. I can't believe it. You know what I mean? If I did the Albert Hall one time, I could tell I could still go to music events going, yeah, I remember that time I played the Albert Hall. Well, that was 16 years ago. I'm like, yeah, but I still did.
It happened.
I never thought I'd play there 13 times.
Right.
I mean, it's like, it's gone way beyond what I thought, and way beyond what most logical people would have said, including myself, to myself.
Right.
It's like, weird last name, Widdly's too much, speaking voice like Kermit the Frog, tries to sound like Paul Rogers singing, fails at that. Something connected. You know what I mean? And that's why we say to the trolls, the people are like, you're overrated. Sure. Aren't we all? I said, somebody likes this shit.
Right, exactly.
9 million records.
Exactly. Somebody's enjoying what's going on.
And I told that to a guy from a really successful band at a hotel my band was staying, and I was having dinner with the late great Michael Rhodes, and just having dinner at the bar, and we're just sitting there, and this gentleman comes up from a very successful rock band, and that tends to get a lot of hate online, and the conversation was like, it's like, well, musicians, like, he's talking to Michael and I, he goes, well, musicians like you don't like like people like me in my band. I said, absolutely, you're absolutely wrong. I said, you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. I said, I go, I do big theaters. Where do you play? He goes, well, we play arenas. I go, are they full? He goes, yeah. Somebody likes this shit.
Right.
Be happy.
Exactly.
Don't worry. Don't make music for 10 of your friends. Make it for the 10,000 people that show up every night. And you know what? If that's your lot in life, we should all be that lucky.
Right.
Don't let those seeds like gestate and it just, you're assuming because we play roots music, not active rock, that we look down upon you. It's like, you're wrong. I said, I really dig your songwriting. I really, really dig the voice. I really, and he walked away. I thought walked away. I bought him a martini and he walked away. Like, I go, well, that was a nice exchange. I hope his perspective. And then later that night, I heard that he jumped in from one of the villas into the pool and got kicked out of the hotel. Probably from the martini I bought him. I'll reveal the name in my book. It was surreal.
Yeah.
Well,
you've got a chance to play with a lot of, your heroes and so on and so forth. I mean, the Clapton thing was obviously, a massive thing. And you've told that story, I believe, last time we were on here. But have you maintained any kind of relationship with him? Or is it just, he just kind of does his own thing? Or every now and again, you're like, hey, what's going on?
I don't abuse the privilege.
Gotcha.
He will get back to me.
Yeah.
I text him on the anniversary of the show that he did. And I always say, and I text him on his birthday. And I always say, happy birthday, hope you're well, Joe B. And I text him on the anniversary of May 4th every year. And I always text him the same thing. Thank you for changing my life. You didn't have to do that, but it did change my life.
Yeah.
And very rarely are the cameras on when somebody's life changes career-wise in real time. And that was my moment. And I said, everybody, they'll ask me, like, what were you thinking when he walked out? I said, well, it wasn't random. You could see the little tweed twin. We knew he was coming. He just didn't pop by, I invited him, and I've told this story many times. And he walked out in the fifth song, and everybody goes, what were you thinking at that moment? And I tried to spin this thing into some profound statement about, perseverance and dedication and the 10,000 hour theory. But to be honest with you, you know what I was thinking at that moment when he walked out? I just shook my head. I go, I can't believe I pulled this shit off.
Right.
That was it. And it was such a validation. He was like going, all right, I'm giving you the shot.
Right.
And because I think enough of what you're doing, I'm giving you the shot. And that was my moment. And I said, well, a broken watch could be right twice a day, but it's my job to work harder now. And when the DVD came out, it wasn't a hit right away. It was more of like, it was doing well. And then when PBS picked it up, two things happened. My crowds quadrupled in the States.
Right.
Overnight. And two, in a really strange way, because I saw the PBS edit and you could clearly hear me talk and introduce Eric Clapton in a clearly definable upstate New York accent. Everybody thought I was British. For years, they thought I was British. Meet people in the meet and greet, they're like, you're not British. I go, never said I was.
Oh, that's hysterical.
I don't get an honorary Brit award because I played the Albert Hall. It's like, I'm from Utica, New York, And I'm like, people, I go, listen, I don't care why you're here and what you thought, but this is what, thank you for coming. And that's been my attitude. And I've seen my audience grow with me, and I've challenged them, and I've challenged myself, and it's not all been gold, because when you're taking risks and you're doing things and musically as diverse as we go sometimes, that it's not all a home run,
Sure.
But if you do it with the right intentions, it'll certainly, it certainly bears fruit. And then, oh, that didn't work. We're never playing that one again. And just never happened,
It seems like you and Josh have a really good groove going on. And how is that whole thing? I mean, Josh is obviously a magnificent musician and a great dude and so on and so forth. But how has that just made things, I don't know, more fun for you, having a friend and someone obviously you have respect with you as your kind of partner in crime?
You know, Josh Smith and I, you know, we've known each other for years, and when we were coming out of COVID, and I was like, I want to change the band a little bit, and you know, I really want to bring on a rhythm guitar player because it just allows the catalog. I can grow the catalog, and I don't have to play and sing. And I asked Josh. I said, like, dude, you interested in this thing? And we had been producing some records together, and he was like, yeah, this would be great. And so I've baptized Josh and our singer Jade McRae and Reese and I have never had the conversation, but he's also, and Calvin and Danny and Lamar, who knows more about music than I do. They all are better than me, my entire band. And I said, listen, okay, I need the modal police. Okay, I'm a blues guy at heart, and I'll ram pentatonics into any brick wall at any time. Happy to do it. You know, I know enough to not do the major minor clashes. But it's been great because Josh really has a good instinct about arrangements. If something's going to work and something doesn't in a live context, and in the studio, it's always great to, you know, he and I kind of dot each other's I's and cross each other's T's. It's like he has a skill set, and then I have, you know, like it's sometimes in the studio when we're producing, when certain things need to be said out loud, that's my job. You know, like you just have to be, you know, when producing an album, I found it's like sometimes you have to save the artist from things that may, you know, the reason why we get called to do this is because a lot of artists have said, hey, I've been doing the same thing for 15 years and I want to do something different. And I like the way, you know, your Eric Gales records sound, or like your, you know, Larry McRae or whatever. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, we always have this conversation with any artist that we work with. Let me tell you how we do it. And it may not be the same way you've done it, but this is how, if you like this result, we can deliver you this result if you just have a little faith. And, you know, having Josh there is great, you know, and, you know, what I love about our band is I try to showcase the talent at least once a night throughout. Reese is soloing all night. Jade takes a solo. Danny takes a solo. Our singers, you know, Calvin gets a bass break. Lamar gets a drum break, and Josh solos, you know, at least 4 or 5 times a night. And it's because it's great for the audience to see, you know, most of those people, you know, my 2 singers, Josh, Reese, I would consider him, you know, and they're solo artists. They made records under their own name, and they're in my band. And it's like, I want to remind my audience that they're not just hired guns. They're actual, I'm blessed to have solo artists that think enough of me to be on the road, you know, 200 days a year.
200 days a year.
It's 100 shows. It's about 100 shows, but you don't do them all in a row.
Right. Gotcha.
You know, unless, you know, I remember those Klaus tours. We used to do 13 in a row.
Yeah, good old Klausy Klaus. I'll be seeing him again in the fall.
Those are endurance tests, not tours. It's like, you know, Josh is over there after this run. After the first solo tour, he's over there back touring in Europe, I would say in the end of May, early June, while I'm doing Black Country Communion. He's like, dude, he was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. We land, we have a day off, and then I do 16 in a row. I go, that's a young man's game.
Oh, yeah. Believe me. And we've been doing that kind of stuff in the States, and it's just me and my son and Toby, and we drive, we do everything. But you know what? It's luckily the routing for us in the States is logical. I mean, you don't have anything that's too far drive over there, man. Klaus will fill, in order to fill a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you might be in Cologne one night and then be, all the way on the other side of Germany the next night, only to end up 10 miles away from where you were the 2 nights before.
Right. And
just because that's, we got a room where there was people and, hotel and food, and there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, Madrid to Zagreb didn't seem so far on the map.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's this is the thing that again, why I feel so blessed is we're able to do it on a level that we promote our own shows, so the routing is more controlled in that way. But the economics of making it work. It's like for anybody who tours on any level, I always say it's like this. It's like the minute you land with your band, it's like putting a whole bunch of $100 bills into a 64-gallon drum and then taking a shop vac, putting it on high and sticking the hose in there.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the time the tour ends and you turn the shop vac off, there's still some money left in the bottom of the barrel.
Exactly.
Because
exactly correct.
Many times you go over there and work crazy. This happened to me so many times. You work crazy and you beat yourself up and you're growing towards something, but that's a hard pill to swallow when you go, wait a minute, I was better off being a member of my own band than being the leader of it. That was years like that.
Yeah, sure.
And now it's even worse because the guarantees haven't gone up enough to adjust for inflation.
All the expenses, yeah.
And the expenses. And it's like, a Comfort Inn is $189. I'm like, I remember when they were $49.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You can make it work.
But you seem very, very smart in terms of I hear other artists who just, they've had this pinnacle of the money's coming in, the places are packed, so they get used to a certain level of, okay, 2 buses, 2 trucks, and so on and so forth. But you seem to be very conscious of, okay, this thing's going to pay X amount, so I know I'm going to bring this amount of stuff, and always being cognizant of that. Would you say that that's true?
Yeah, you got to scale, and one of the advantages of promoting your own shows is you could see from the on sale what the grosses are.
Right.
Like every day we get updates Monday, Wednesday, Friday on shows, and you'll just see the grosses, and then you scale accordingly.
Right.
The mistake that a lot of people make when it hits and is immediate, because there's nobody to say no when you're in charge. There's nobody to say no.
Right.
It's like, you know what? I don't feel like being on a bus for 12 hours. How much is the jet? Oh. And nobody says, yeah, well, that's what it is. Okay, great. Well, when you get, and then you realize 10 years past the salad years.
Right.
So you really would like that. Like, was that Instagram photo in front of that Gulfstream really worth it?
Right.
Wouldn't you rather have that money like tucked away for a rainy day?
Right.
And, it to me, it's the classic music business, and what my manager and I, Roy, we've been together 35 years, and what we've done is, and we started to see right off the bat, was the amount of money coming off the gross, not the net. And we tried to eliminate as much of the gross participation for other third parties as we could.
Right.
Meaning, for years, people go, "Who's your agent in the state?" We are.
Right.
Ron Kaplan does specialty gigs for us, and we've known him 25 years, but he's not the principal day-to-day agent. And we have Neil O'Brien in London, and he manages a lot of the UK stuff, and all these promoters that we used to work for, we now hire for a fee to administer the gigs over in Europe. And we've had this great relationship over the last 15, 20 years. But when you start talking about, if you make $1,000 on a show and 20% goes to the 10% goes to the agent, 20% goes to the manager, promoter's fee of 5%, you're looking at it 35% off the gross.
Sure.
So so you didn't make $1,000, you made $650.
Right.
Okay, now you have to pay for your hotels, your transportation, miscellaneous, and any bag of Doritos that you may quote unquote have on your rider, which a lot of younger bands said, like, don't ever walk into a dressing room and say, I can't believe how generous this rider is.
Right.
You're paying for it.
They're paying for it all. Exactly.
And I know this Diet Coke is $2.49 in Los Angeles because the taxes are crushing. Okay. So it's $2.49. Okay. But when you go down the line items at settlement, you're like 6-pack of Diet Coke, $32. You're like, no. It's like the more you can control the expenses, the more that's left over for you to, and again, it's not about lining your pockets. It's about reinvesting in your business,
right?
And growing and promotion and keeping the air in the balloon.
Yes, indeed. There's a lot more to it than just plugging in and proceeding to rock.
I hate to say it, but a lot of times the second word in music business doesn't sink in until it'll sink in when the money stops coming in.
Right.
Or when people, artists tend to be like, I don't know, man, I just play guitar around here. I don't know. That's, Hal takes care of the business. I'm like, okay. And then next thing a year or two down the line, when they figured out there was nothing left for them.
Right.
And the little thing called the IRS.
Right.
And next thing you know, you're talking to them and they're flexing like they're a panelist on Shark Tank.
Right.
You're like, no. No, you don't get to. I'm glad you saw the light, and I'm glad you're starting to get more control of your business. But you have it's the tedium. Sometimes like people say, well, these are I have to do it this way because it's contingent on this opportunity or these offers. It's like if you build your fan base direct to consumer,
right?
There's nobody should ever stand in your way from where you want to go.
Right.
If you're doing it direct to consumer, if you're doing it through third parties and all the carrot dangling that happens, then yeah, there's going to be a point in time when you sit there and go, you know what, I'm not in control of my destiny, and that's a bad feeling, and we've all been there.
Right.
I'm not unique. This was not an immaculate conception. This was going over to Europe and promoters that I knew going, hey, you were very expensive tonight. I go, what are you talking about? I'm making like $2,000. He was like, no, you're making $6,000. I'm like, well, who got the 4?
Right.
Well, the person who bought and sold the tour. They made more than we did. And I'm like, okay. And some promoters will speak to you in a condescending way as if what they do to promote concerts is tantamount to Blue Origin or SpaceX.
Right.
The complexity of promoting a show is like landing a rocket on a platform. And
right.
It really isn't. It just takes a little bit of business savvy, not much. But the most important thing about doing that is the willingness to bet on yourself.
Right. I get you.
Yep. And it's like, where do you want to play? How much, how, are you tired of playing for ticket prices that are less than a movie? Okay, well, you can control that, and promoters or club owners will say, well, if I lower the price to €8 or $10, like I'll get 20 more people at the show that are going to drink and buy mozzarella sticks. Right. Well, you're not participating in the Pabst Blue Ribbon or the mozzarella sticks.
Right, exactly.
You're just making less, so they can make more. So the more you can control and the more you understand that relationship, is the better off you're going to be.
Indeed. These are all good points.
Somebody, a friend of mine was like, they work with Belmont University, and they at a studio. My friend Jamie's like, would you ever be interested in talking to the students at the studio? I'm like Jamie, I go, you be careful what you wish for,
right? Because
I have an opening statement,
right?
And it's like, if in my opening statement with the music business is if you you have to love this thing so much that you're willing to take a vow of poverty. And if you're willing to take a vow of poverty and still be happy and can't live with yourself, if you don't play guitar or music or exercise some kind of creative outlet,
Right.
then this isn't for you. This is
Right.
this is a rough and ready. This is a struggle.
Right.
And my second statement to them is like, my first advice in the music business is stay the fuck away from the music business.
I heard another version that is a pretty good one as well. Is like, if you say to somebody, if you can see yourself doing anything else, do that.
Yeah.
Because I always say, it's like, I could not see myself doing anything else and I would not be stopped. I said, you have to be a little crazy. You got to be a little, not crazy in a negative way, but it's like you have blinders on. No, I'm going to do this. And no matter how many people are saying, yeah, you know how hard this is? It's like, yeah, but it's not going to be that way for me because this is what I'm going to do and no one's going to stop me. You have to have that kind. And then you find out along the way, it's like, yeah, maybe I was, a little too this, that, and the next thing. But, you pivot and you go on. But that love of doing it, that love has to so far supersede the bullshit you will inevitably consume.
Yeah. It has to be the love of your life.
Exactly.
And for it to work. Right. And, the ones that always, I just get a chuckle on is like, you see people like, making music. I'm a creative and I make music and the road life is so hard and I'm a homebody and I like being at home, and I'm like going, well, then this isn't for you.
This is not for you. Exactly.
This is like saying a mailman goes, man, I'm a mailman, but I hate paper and stamps.
Right.
It's like, this clearly isn't. This isn't for you. There can't be this is why I've successfully single at almost 48 years old, and I've had some great girlfriends throughout my life, and it all comes down to this. They will all say this, and when they see videos of me as a kid, and then they deal with me on a day-to-day basis, they go, "You haven't changed at all since you've been 12 years old." I go, "That's right. It has not changed because that's what makes me good at my job."
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
And but if there's any contingents, or I'm only going to play gigs if I make X, or I'm only going to do it if they send a town car,
right,
with plated rims. This isn't for you.
Right. Exactly.
Get in the Prius, Uber, like we all do.
Judas Prius. Well, listen, my friend, so great. Thanks so much for making some time to rap with us. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. It was fun. Thanks for having me sit in when you were in Milwaukee. That was a blast. It had been a while. You had been a while, and you melted the Riverside Theater on a very cold evening with your guitar prowess. It was cold. Well, thank you so much. That's a fun tune to play. I'll tell you what, man. What I didn't let you on was when we were sitting at catering having dinner, something felt off. I just had a cap put on a tooth. I go, something felt off. And I'm like, you know when something's wrong, but then you're kind of in denial. Right. And I go, I hope Greg doesn't think I'm like just in a bad mood or something. Like, something was off. And it turned out I needed like a root canal. Oh, no kidding. Oh, yeah. On the road. Oh, that's no fun. Oh no! So my apologies if I. Oh no, you were fine. It was great. I felt very much at home. I enjoyed the whole experience. Like the hummus was like chewing ice. That's the worst. Getting old is tough. Well, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not, but it happens to everyone. That's a fact. When they call me a boomer, I'm going, it's going to happen to you. Exactly. We're all lapping the sun. Can't stop that. That's a fact. Well, listen, have fun over there in Europe. Give them hell. I will. Thank you, sir. Hope to cross paths again soon. Yeah, man. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate My pleasure. It. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Right, bye. Well, thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Chewing the Gristle. We certainly do appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you tell your friends all about us. I think they might enjoy themselves. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.